Well, my guest this morning is a man who's seen all sides of this groundsmanship industry, from YOP scheme in Staffordshire County Council through to landscape gardening, and then on to being the head of a grounds team at one of the most prestigious schools in the country, and then head of grounds at two of the top clubs in the English Premiership. Dave Roberts has seen and done it all. And using his skills and experience that he's picked up, he's now set up a new venture, Training Unlimited. Now, we'll be talking about that during the course of the video. But Dave, can't be many people out there with a CV which covers as many bases as yours.
I think, yeah, it's an interesting one. I think it's just the way my career's developed. I don't think I ever really chose to go that route, but yeah, went into college. Just as it was then, you couldn't do a sports turf degree, so it was just mainly just around general horticulture. Did a year there, came out, did a bit of work experience, went back, did another year, national certificate, and then like scratching head where to go. Ended up working for local councils. Ended up going more into sports turf side of things on the maintenance side for local councils. Worked for a contracting company for a number of years, 7 years. And primarily ended up on there looking after their managing sports pitches for them as well. So yeah, it was a lucky break for me to get to Southampton, being in the right place at the right time. Met Laurie McMenemy, helped him out with his garden. It was in a bit of a mess. His garden had a hip operation. So did a cheeky one and just sort of said to him, "What do you want someone to give you a hand while your gardener gets on the feet?" Got in there, sorted his garden out. The lawn was in a mess, so we sorted that out. And then he came up to me and said, "The groundsman's being sacked at Bedell. Would I interview for it?" So there you go. Right place at the right time.
And I mean, from Laurie McMenemy's perspective, he wouldn't know that being a gardener is a different set of skills to being the head man at a football club. He obviously thought, well, here's a man that's good with the soil, good with grass. We should have him.
Yeah, I think so. I think it was a positive can-do attitude. And sort of his house, I don't know how you describe it. His house is in rural Hampshire, and it's in a chalk pit. So it's surrounded probably by 20-foot high cliffs of chalk all the way around. It's quite a unique setting. But obviously, within the chalk cliff itself is all trees and everything. So the garden itself was primarily moss. So getting on top of the moss and getting back a decent lawn in a shady environment, I think he probably thought, do you know what, if you can grow grass in my chalk pit, you could probably grow grass at the Dell. So yeah, I say lucky break, had to go for the interviews, been in the right place at the right time, and been lucky enough to be offered a position at a very, very small team. Then it was myself at the Dell, and there was Tom, who'd been at the training ground for years, and Graham, who he just started there as well. So Graham was only 16, still there now. Graham Mills, but it's just the three of us that were looking after the training ground and the stadium at the time.
Yeah. It's amazing. I was speaking to the guys who are now moved up from there to the FA and running the two. Southampton, what a breeding ground. And they were both very complimentary about you, Dave, as to the support you'd given them on their way up through their career. So their success must give you an awful lot of satisfaction as well.
Yeah, it does. I mean, look, they've done it off their own back. I mean, you could see potential when I employed them, did the interviews with them. You could see that both of them had got, I'll say ambition, but there was something about them. Was that sort of character that you think, right, that they're keen to learn more. They're like soaking it up. They're asking the right questions. They're challenging. They're doing everything right. But you think at some point these guys have got an opportunity. So yeah, I feel like a proud father when you see them go on and on. But yeah, no, it's all, they've done it on their own back, and it's nice to be part of their career for them, give them the first opportunities.
Would you say that groundsmanship is very much in your blood? You think that was something you were always destined to do? Was it something when you left school that you wanted to go down this? I know for a lot of guys who I wasn't a bookish person. I wanted to be outdoors, and that's what drove them in that area. Were you similar to that?
That very much the same. Yeah, I didn't enjoy school. It wasn't fun. I did all right in the sciences, but I didn't really enjoy school. And I think I probably spent more time daydreaming, looking out the window, than I did actually focusing on the books put in front of me. My mom was a keen gardener, and that very much rubbed off on me. And it was like being outside, growing plants, vegetables, looking after the garden. So they probably household chores, but they came chores that I actually really enjoyed. And I think that was what it was when I came to towards the end of the school, and they're like, right, what do you want to do? What's your careers choices? And I did enjoy science. So it was like, well, you can become like a pharmacist. And, okay, what's that involve? Another 6 years at university? No. So what hobbies do you like? Well, so I like pottering around in the garden. So you can do a 1-year gardening course. I went, right, I'll do that then. And that was it. So that was what really got me into it. And it was just general gardening. And I think the way the paths wind, different avenues opened up, and it goes onto sports turf. And ultimately, it's a grass. Grass is a plant. It needs same sort of maintenance and care and due diligence. You're just looking after thousands and thousands and thousands of them rather than individual plants.
Were you a sports fan when you moved to? Did you know who Laurie McMenemy was when you got?
I did. I knew. I think when you're around, when you're in the Southampton area, everybody knows who Laurie McMenemy is. He's a guy who's larger than life, and he's a big character in football and out of football. So yeah, but I wasn't really a sports fan. I watched it. Tennis was probably one I enjoyed more than anything else. But football, I could take it or leave it. Watch the FA Cup. Appreciate it, and you can appreciate a good game. But my focus has always been on the pitch. So it's always been around, even when I first started there, I spend more time, as most groundsmen do, you spend more time watching the divots coming up, seeing where the damage has been done, than you do actually watching the game and enjoying the game.
I mean, most of your jobs, I would imagine, since then, will be more behind a desk, paper pushing, than actually being out on the stuff itself. That would have been a frustration as well, I would have thought.
Yes, it is. Neil Stubley at Wimbledon coins the phrase accidental manager, and I think that suits so many of us in our industry. Is you never, I don't think we ever choose to be going to management. I think most of us have just ended up being a good groundsman, doing a job well, respected by your team, hopefully, and your employer, and you get promoted. So you're going in from being like someone who can tend for the turf into a really high standard to being right now you're managing this team of people. Now you're writing reports for the board. Now you're going to go in front of the camera every so often, and it's a big step up. So it wasn't something that I planned. Like I'm sure most of my people who have been in the same position, it's just something that's sort of like fallen upon us. But as you go through, I think it's the challenge. Is like I could have just turned it down. I didn't have to do the management side of it, but it's nice to have a fresh challenge. Sometimes it's quite scary having that fresh challenge as well. It does open your eyes to a lot more things and to other aspects of how the club runs. Things like that. I remember Andy Gray saying to me when I was at Southampton, and I just handed him a notice in to go to work at Charterhouse School. And Andy was vying for the position of like taking over from me. And I think it was split between himself and Graham, who was going to take over at the time. And Andy was sort of saying, well, one of the things you always say yes today, end of season, you're always saying yes to people using the pitch. You never seem to say no. And I said, like, you've got to see it when you're in a manager's position. You have to see it from both sides of the fence. And then when Andy took over, he said, first, I think they're asking to do a testimonial on the pitch in the summer. And he's like, wanted to say no, but he couldn't. So he said, yeah, I suddenly see it from the other side. When you put into that position and somebody's asking you something, it's very hard to say no to it. You have to weigh up the pros and cons, explain what the problems are, look at the solutions, give them some options, and see where it goes from there.
It's a bit like golf in many ways. When you were a course manager at a members club, you can say course closed when there's a little bit of frost. But if you're at one of the bigger clubs, proprietary or hotels, when they've got big corporates coming in, you just say, look, it's going to cause this damage. This is what I'll need to repair the damage. And that's, you've got to look at it slightly different like that.
Yeah.
You had a big when you were at Southampton. Were you in charge when you moved to the Dell to St Mary's?
Yes. I can't remember how many years I've been promoted up to like the head groundsman role. But it was very much part of my remit. I think I did 7 years. I think it was 7 years at the Dell and 6 years at St Mary's. Yeah. So it was quite an eye opener. I mean, the Dell was one of the smallest grounds it was the smallest ground in the Premier League by a long shot. Not just the pitch, which was very small, but obviously the stands as well. 15,000 people in the Premier League. And they competed, they didn't do well, but they competed. Every year seemed to be like a relegation battle, but they stayed up for years and years and years. And we got moved to St Mary's. We were heavily involved with the design, construction of the pitch. And, obviously we managed, I think we did another 2 years at St Mary's before they got into problems. got relegated and into financial problems, which is round about the time when I decided it was time to leave.
Yeah.
I was a rat leaving a sinking ship. I apologise.
But then, we'll talk about Charterhouse as well. But when you moved to Liverpool, were you involved with the setting up and running of Melwood as well?
Yeah, so I was lucky. Liverpool had got Terry, who was there before me, had been there, I think, 40 years. So he'd built a really good, strong team around him. So each site had its own head groundsman. And then ultimately my position at Liverpool was grounds manager to oversee each site to make sure everything was going in the right direction. But I had a really good, strong team around me. So it was good to walk into somewhere which is like as prestigious as Liverpool, knowing that you've got people around you that have been there a long time, long in the tooth, they know what it's about. They know the problems, they know the challenges, and they were really accepting of me as well. So it was nice to sit down and go, right, go on, let's hear some of your problems. Let's see what I can do about it. Lucky, when you're a new broom, you've probably got like 1 year, 2 years to get in there and make changes when the management listen to you before you become the dripping tap that people just go, oh, here comes a groundsman having a moan again. So yeah, we managed to change quite a few things around there. So it was good. I mean, literally one of the first things when I walked through the door was the board had agreed to rebuild Anfield. It hadn't been done for 17, 18 years. So it was like quite a major rebuild that needed to be done. So it's literally like one of the first meetings was sat down with the PSD who were designing it, sit down with them about some of my ideas and things that I'd like to see included in with it. So that was like literally straight in at the deep end. And the new main stand was being built that year as well. So we lost, I think it was 2/3 of the pitch was completely covered with steel sheet while we did the demolition in summer, and gave us a 6-week window to get the pitch ready for the start of the season on a pitch that was only say 17, 18 years old and was more waterproof than one of the jackets that I used to wear. I think it's quite scary. It was the best the drainage rate was, they said, was 14 mil an hour, and the worst was 4 mil an hour. So you can imagine in the wet northwest, every time you saw a shower, you were like, "Oh, here we go." So yeah, it was very interesting that move up.
The satisfaction of not only doing St Mary's but also doing Anfield and Melwood must have been huge. But that satisfaction must be tempered by the stress and pressure that you felt when it was going on in the first place. Yeah,
but it goes with it. It's say we were saying earlier on in the talk. People don't in management and coaching staff, they'll appreciate a decent surface, but they don't appreciate the work that has to go into it. And a lot of people don't seem to think that, they think a bit like if you painted your room, you paint your room and you think, right, that's that, painting's done, the room's been decorated, it's good for 5 to 10 years. And unfortunately, when you're dealing with a living surface, you can rebuild it, but it doesn't mean it's going to be good for 5 to 10 years because it's living. So you have to manage that living plants. And if you do the management wrong, you're going to create problems. So yeah, and that's very hard to put through to owner groups, management teams as well. So trying to present that in a way that people understand the pressures and some of the solutions that you can employ to get it the best surface you possibly can for the budget that they can afford.
Charterhouse, there can't be many people have gone from Premiership Football Club to high-end school, back to Premiership Football Club. What was it attracted you to? I mean, I know the guys and I admire the work that's done at some of the top schools. It's incredible because you have to range of schools, the skills that are required are enormous. Yeah. But where did that fit into your plan? Was there no plan, or did it fit into?
No. It was I had a chance call from Dale Gleed, who was retiring or leaving Charterhouse to go off to Bobby Castle Golf Club. And I've met him a couple of times, but only a couple of times at industry events. And I was at Southampton, I say 13 years. Southampton had been relegated. They were going into a financial administration, going to take a 10-point hit. And writing on was on the wall, not for my job, but when it goes into administration that they're going to be a cull. They're going to get rid of jobs. It's one of the things they do. It's one of the easiest things away to cut back and save money. So I was saying I was worried for my job. I thought I was okay, but I'd heard at other clubs had gone in through the same way, that people in middle management, my kind of position, would end up going and they'd promote somebody without giving them money to do it. And the person who was above them would take so you just get rid of that middle management. cut out a tier. So I was a little bit worried that my job might not exist once the administrators got in. So I was keeping a bit of a weather eye on what jobs were around in the industry. And they all phoned me up and said, "Oh, I don't know if you've heard, I'm leaving Charterhouse." I was like, "Oh, okay, I had heard and wished them all the best." And he says, "Well, I've put your name forward for the job." So, okay, well, that's not something I considered, but let me come up and have a look at it. And I don't know if you've ever been to Charterhouse, but it is like,
guys there, yeah, I've seen pictures.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's one of those things, and it's, I drove there. I've never been there before in my life, and I drove through the gate, and you just hit by this wow factor. The grounds look great. The buildings are absolutely stunning. It is like walking onto a set of Hogwarts. Yeah. It is absolutely, and it's dripping with history. There's 250 acres of land there with a 9-hole golf course. Football was their thing. They won the FA Cup back in 1883, I think it was. So when it was an amateur sport, so they were really proud of their football pedigree as well. So a lot of schools tended to be orientated around rugby. Well, Charterhouse were very much football, cricket as well. So they're 9 cricket squares. Surrey will come and use them. Some of the outfield games will be played on there. So they would use them for like test events and things. So it was like, right, okay, there's a whole set of new challenges here. So the gardens were stunning as well. So you had to manage a gardens team as well as the grounds team and the golf course and all the woodland, which was 80 acres of ancient woodland on there as well. So it was like a whole new set of challenges. And what they're offering me was, when I was getting paid handsome from Southampton, and got thrown a house in as well, which came with a job. So all of a sudden it was just like, and unfortunately my marriage had hit the rocks as well. So my wife didn't want me around at the time as well. So it was just like, okay, I need to find somewhere to live, and I would like to find a new job. And Charterhouse came right in at the right time for me. So it was just like, okay, I'll do it. So so that was it. So nearly 9 years at Charterhouse. I absolutely enjoyed it. There was so much we were doing. The thing for me with Charterhouse compared to being in a football club is when I started there, they said, "Oh, we're going to build 2 new hockey pitches." I went, right, okay, I'll get started on that now. I'll get all the contractors, we'll start getting the tenders put together. And they're like, no, we're talking about 5 years here. We're in football, when somebody says they want to do something, they mean what, by tomorrow, why isn't it completed? So, as I'm so used to that football way of life, whereas when somebody says it needs to be done, you just crack on and get it done. Where there, it was, no, it's a plan. We've got to get the funding for it. We've got to raise some money. We're going to do this. And it was a lot slower pace compared to football. But it was good. But I did get to that point where you just sort of, I'm missing a bit of football. I'm missing that competitive, because it was like, I don't know, we used to keep the place looking immaculate all the time. And then probably once a year, we'd have a big open day where it was just like polish everything so it looked absolutely pristine. So you'd do that, and you'd have some of the high matches against other schools, Eton, and Harrows. You'd make sure that everything was like on the A game for those games. But it wasn't quite the same as doing a Premier League match. And then I got literally right place at the right time again. I got a phone call from, it was Paul Burgess actually from Real Madrid saying, he'd put my name forward, and I'm like, "Oh, really?" So I was quite shocked at that. So I was like, I got a phone call long after he put the phone down from Liverpool saying that they asked me to come up for an interview. So went for an interview, and lucky enough to get the position up there.
Was it an interview, or was it a shoe-in? Was it?
No, it was no way was it a shoe-in, and I know they'd interviewed a hell of a lot of other people before me. So I'd gone in thinking, I've been out the game for a few years. I've been keeping in contact with everyone. So, I'd speak to Darren Baldwin and Steve Braddock and Andy at Southampton, and keep in contact with the guys. So they'll tell me what the latest pressures were and what challenges they were dealing with, and we'd have a good old chinwag about. So I wasn't unaware of how football had changed in the years I've been out of it, but I wasn't doing it. So I was thinking, chances of me actually getting in here are going to be slim. So to be actually be offered the job was.
And to go walking onto the pitch under this is Anfield sign must have been tingles.
There is something about Anfield, and I'm sure a lot of people will say it about stadiums that they go to as well. But Anfield, it's one of those historic stadiums where it's not moved. Obviously Everton were the hosts originally there, and then they moved out because fell out with the landlord, and the landlord formed a new team called Liverpool, and Liverpool have been there ever since. So you walk in there and you can feel the place just like, I don't know, it oozes history and emotions, and you can it just, I don't know, it's something really tangible about walking onto Anfield, and just you can just feel that history and sense of being somewhere special.
And having a history there, having the modern training centre at Melwood, you'll be getting the chance to almost like preserve Anfield and make sure it doesn't deteriorate, but build something brand new at Melwood with all the new pitches and everything tickety-boo.
Yeah. No, that was a good challenge, a really good challenge. It was good. We worked closely with the manager on that one as well, and the manager and the coaching staff. So we spoke to them about what they wanted. We worked with PSD to do the design work for it. We tweaked and changed. When we rebuilt Anfield, we changed the construction slightly, and we learned things from that, which we thought, right, we're going to invest into the new AXA training centre, put into the pitches there, and some of the amendments we put in there, we tweaked slightly to make them the pitch perform even better. So there's a slight risk, because you're thinking we're adding some more things in here. In theory, it should work better, but you just don't know. Unfortunately for us, so I say I've moved out there now, but those pitches, the new AXA training pitches, have been absolutely phenomenal. We've used a lot less water than we did on the old pitches at Melwood, and nutrient-wise, is, I don't know, probably a third of the amount of nutrient that we're putting down on there compared to what we were putting down at Melwood. So, and without compromise to the quality of the grass. So Warren, who took over from me, Warren had been at Melwood and is now at the AXA site as well. And we kept pushing the boundaries.
Are they fairly close geographically, the two sites?
Yeah, so the AXA site is basically 15 minutes away from Melwood, and it's at the end of the academy. So there was where the academy finished. There was a small amount of wasteland. Then there was a road that cut across the site, and then there was some community pitches. Mm-hmm. So Knowsley were quite keen for us to move from Melbourne to go over there. So they offered us a really good rate on the community pitches. So the club had to improve the remaining community pitches. And then we were able to get a road closure in to get rid of the road that ran through the site, and then redevelop it. So it's a fair bit of work going on there, all of that. And so it'd be nice to sit. It was nice to sit in the design team and then the client team right through the whole project, and to the point of getting the team to move in. It's frustration, I think, for all of us again was COVID came along. So we're like, right, we were working to a deadline of when we were going to move in. Then COVID came along, so building work stopped. Then building work started for a long period of time. Materials became an absolute nightmare to get in from anywhere. So it was a bit an unknown date. So trying to grow grass and prepare pitches for a date that you don't know when they're actually going to move in was hard work. So it's November we ended up moving in, and it was like, the pitches were almost a year old, and we wanted to scrape them off, start them again. And people also thought if we do it too early, and the pitches might be too weak. So we kept with the grass we had, and we managed it, intensively scarifying it really to keep the organic out of it, and hopefully it played okay. And it did. It played really well for the first season. Coaching staff, players were really happy with the pitches. Didn't like the wind, but they were really happy with the pitches.
Now we're speaking to you in where there isn't so much, well, maybe it is wind, I don't know, but it's warmer wind. You're in the Alps, and you set up your new business. Tell me a little bit about the thinking behind it, and a little bit about the business itself. Yeah,
so my partner Jan's had Training Unlimited. She's had that for 20 years. Now Jan's basically facilitates training across the UK. And any sort of training, from whether it's in for healthcare, from construction to leadership to grounds teams as well. So I've been sat there. One of my frustrations through my career is there isn't a real obvious training path for people to go through. So there's obviously you can do your level 2 and do your level 3. Once you've done that, to do the next set of skills that you might want to learn, you can go and do a level 4, but that's mainly management. So so there seemed to be some gaps for me, that the fine tuning, the bits as a stadium manager, I found frustrating because I couldn't find those courses, and it was a small market, and I had guys that wanted to progress working for me, and I couldn't find courses that would help them progress, short courses that would help them progress. So Jan said, well, why don't we set up, why don't we do our own training for it? And so I went, okay, but when you're working for a company, you can't do it. So it was literally like, okay, I need to I need to stop working for Liverpool. Yeah, and concentrate on doing it. So yeah, so that's where it's really come from. And don't get me wrong, the GMA are doing a fantastic job, and of course, his Bay Run are really, really good. And obviously got Leicester, who set up the Sports Turf Academy as well, which I think is going to be absolutely brilliant for the industry. But I think I can add another dimension as well. So hopefully I can add. The plan is to write courses. I am writing courses, for example, like grow lights, understanding soil analysis. I'm going to do a series of short courses on know your enemy, so pests and disease, life cycles, how cultural control, chemical control, just to things like that. So I'm hoping what I'll do is I'll be able to present to groundsmen, grounds managers up and down the country a whole set of courses. But if their guys want to progress and learn and are keen and ambitious, then I can help just fine tune based on 40 years experience now in the industry. So yeah, you amass some knowledge. So it's been good.
How will you deliver the courses? Will you do them on site? Will you do them over Zoom or?
Plan is, I think I'd like to do them virtually. So I know I'd like to face to face is by far the best. We know that, but I think again, one of the things we know coming through COVID is we can, like you and I are doing now, but a few years ago you wouldn't consider doing this kind of thing. But I think COVID's changed the way we learn, the way we talk and communicate. So I think it's easy for me to do. And I wouldn't want them to be much longer than a half day, but to be able to deliver a half day course for people that I can deliver like we're doing, I can bring up PowerPoints, bring up slides, and I can provide course notes as well. There's something they can take away from it. So yeah, I think it's very, very much a manageable way of doing things.
What's been the initial reaction to it? Have you put out some sounding boards just to find?
Put out some sound, yeah. Put out some sounding, and I've had quite a few people who are really interested to find out more. So it's exciting. So yeah, well, we watch this space. Early days. I've been over here 8 weeks, and I'm starting to build some courses, starting to get heard and what we're trying to do. But I say we've already got an existing training company with Jan's business, Training Unlimited, and I think there's a lot there. I'm going to be promoting that because there's a lot of courses there, but just some simple things like the manual handling courses, supervisory courses, things that when I refer back to the accidental manager, well, between myself and Jan and her trainers, we can put courses together that I know I would, as a manager coming through who had to step up into that management position, some of the weaknesses that I had, we can put courses together that I know would benefit people who are, going from being a groundsman to a supervisor to an assistant head or to a head groundsman or to a grounds manager. So hopefully we can put a load of courses together there, all like modular courses that help benefit somebody without them making it feel quite so daunting to take that step up.
It does seem to be that people who have succeeded, people like yourself and John at Leicester, and you've always managed to get to where you are despite the system. And if you can get a better system in place, maybe more people come through and emulate the likes of you and Darren and John and do it that way. Because with a proper, I think many people started out right at the very beginning as 16, 17-year-olds. They were jobs, they weren't careers they were starting out on. Yeah. And I mean, most people in our industry is one of those industries where most people just sort of fall into it by accident. So it's an interesting one. And when you do fall into it by accident, you suddenly realize that you need an awful lot of knowledge and skills. And it's so dynamic dealing with grass in a stadium with the UK weather and the fixtures that get thrown on it and shorter close seasons, multi-use stadiums. It keeps changing. It keeps burning the candle at both ends, and it makes it harder to manage. And the windows you've got, you have to make absolute maximum, make correct decisions, correct choices, correct equipment, correct materials, and go for it. And you still might get caught up because the weather goes against you. Yeah, I mean the growing grass at the Dell would have been completely different to growing grass at St Mary's.
Yes. Oh yeah, very, very, very different. And the expectations, managers now expect. When I was at the Dell, it was the first year, 1994. I started there, and when you get through to the end of the season, no reinforcements. Predominantly the pitch is power annua. It's probably over 70% power annua, so it's kicking out in lumps. You've lost the goal mouths, and it's almost like, right, you're going to lose the goal mouths. It's how, do I lose the 18-yard boxes? Do I lose the centre circle? It's damage limitation, and players would expect it. It's just like that's what every pitch was like they played on, and that's what they were used to. And then pitches improved, reinforcement systems, grow lights, management techniques have improved, and the pitches have got better and better. And now
the stadiums have got bigger as well. And
yeah,
more
yeah, stadiums are bigger as well. And so the windows to work on pitches are a lot smaller. But the expectation of players and managers now is they expect the pitch to be the same at the start of the season, to the middle of the season, to the end of the season. And if it's not, then you're almost held to held judgment over it. So it's real pressure on there now, a lot of pressure.
Well, Dave, hopefully with the advent of your new training company, you'll help people get through those pressures. And it's been lovely talking to you for the first time. And I hope that we can perhaps see each other again fairly soon. Maybe over in the Algarve where the weather's so much better.
That's what I should be doing the training courses over here, shouldn't we?
Exactly, yeah, you'll be inundated. But thanks very much for your time. It's been great. And good luck with everything going forward.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Thanks.